The housing market is freaking nuts right now. If you're a home buyer, you're definitely feeling that pain and struggle. However, I'm still getting my offers accepted with my clients. So in today's video, I want to discuss how I'm specifically doing that in regards to closing costs. So first, I'm going to do a deep dive on the data of a local market to get an idea of how much people are getting closing costs paid. And I'm going to show you some of my real life examples that my clients actually did to get some closing costs. So hope this video brings you some value. Let's get to it. I've been in the real estate business for about 8 years now, and it's really crazy the transformation that closing costs, or in other words, getting closing costs for buyers has taken just in the last few months. It wasn't unreasonable to request a closing cost situation. Now, most of the time, we would have to find situations where the buyer would have a little more leverage, meaning a house has been on the market a little longer. We can either get a list price or below with closing costs, or perhaps we would have to, if the seller had some leverage, we would have to give maybe a little on top of the price, maybe an extra 4, an extra 5 on top of the price, so they can sweeten the pot a little bit and give us some of that money back for closing costs. It wasn't difficult. Any monkey with a real estate license was able to get it. What's happening in this market, for those who don't know, is there is such a short amount of inventory in the market that houses that shouldn't have had multiple offer situations are getting multiple offer situations. And the ones that would have had multiple offer situations in the normal market has an insane bloodbath of just craziness. The key word, like I said earlier, was leverage. Home buyers do not have an ounce of leverage in this market. And it's just the facts. Sure, there's very, very few opportunities sometimes where we can find a situation where we can get some leverage, which I'll show you in a little bit later in the video, but it's very difficult. So what I like to do first is I want to show you just a local city. People already say I have an accent. They're probably going to think I have a really bad, more of an accent now. I'm going to pick out a local city in my area, and I'm going to show you just what's selling, and I want to show you what's the percentage of people that are paying closing costs to get an idea of what's going on with the market in the first place, because you might get the perception that no one's paying closing costs, but as we start going to find out, I bet you it's not what it seems, if that makes sense. Local city. Let's pick out the local city. This is the MLS. For those who don't know, only real estate agents have access to this. So this is why I'm able to kind of play with the numbers a little more. So let my ability to play with the numbers be at your gain. So I've already kind of done the numbers a little bit here, where I have closed listings last 5 days, single family houses in the city of Chandler, which is a really prominent city in the East Valley here in Phoenix. I got rid of the new builds, only 0 to 2019. And I am focusing specifically on anything less than $1,000. I feel like might not have been concessions given to the seller for closing costs. I feel like it might have been some kind of repairs, right? Some kind of repairs that the seller didn't want to do, so they just gave some closing costs. So there's 72 sales in the last 5 days. So if I were to put here at least minimum $1,000 and up, we see that only 15 of them gave some kind of concessions to the seller. That was over $1,000. Let's quickly evaluate to see how much they gave. So this one gave $1,750. This one gave $5,000. This one gave $5,000. This one gave $4,000. So all these are not paying for the entire amount. They're just paying for a partial. That one gave $5,000. That one gave $7,000. So approximately 21% of houses in the Chandler area in the last 5 days gave some a concession. So yes, it's really, really low. I mean, I'm not doubting that, especially like, let's say if I go back, let's just do the last 5 days from like in 2019. So like 25th, like in 2019, there was 111 sales. And if I put concessions, 26 of them gave closing costs. So 23%, 24%. So realistically, the numbers are really not that different for highly valuable areas like Chandler. So that leaves a question. How do you identify this 20% of listings that you have some opportunity to get the closing costs? Well, first and foremost, it's really strong to recognize that almost all of these did not pay the entire amount. They're giving a little piece, maybe a quarter, maybe half. So I still highly, highly, highly recommend you at least save half of the closing costs. you're gonna have a better chance getting some of these offers accepted if you have some skin in the game, right? You're paying your down payment already, but have something else so you can show the seller, hey, I tried to save up as much as possible, but I only came up with half. Can you help me with the other half? Anyways, how do we identify these opportunities? Well, I have a client who recently just purchased a house who found this exact situation, and we were able to get about $6,500 of concessions, which is basically the entire amount. Let me share with you now. Let me share my blah. Here's the house. It's actually really nice inside, and it was really well taken care of. The only problem was the backyard. Let me show you. First of all, look at that. Listing agents talking to us through the mirror. What's up, man? Embarrassing. The backyard was all concrete. So they had a really hard time selling this property because A, it wasn't marketed properly at all. The guy did a terrible job posting these photos. You want to make sure if you're selling your house, take professional photos because these are bad. B, the entire backyard was made out of concrete. But for my client, this was actually perfect. This is perfect for him to do a full court basketball practice, right? Where he can have him and his friends playing basketball. So to him, this was a huge plus. So we looked at the situation. We figured out how long it's been on the market. And but when we made our offer, it was already like 30-ish days on the market already. And we knew the photos were not taken well. And we actually were seeing other properties and we were getting outbid for other properties. So this wasn't our first option, but he came back and he's like, hey, Javier, let's try to make an offer on that Hazelwood one. So we knew that we had leverage in the situation. So what we did is we started our initial offer. It might have been a little bit under list price, but we asked for the whole entire amount, $6,500. It was listed at $295 and we were willing to pay $295 for it. However, the appraisal came back at $287 and, we negotiated back and forth with them, and I knew that these people needed to sell this house because they were buying another one and they were in the process already, and it would have been difficult for them to get out. So we played a little hardball with them, and we ultimately got them to agree to not only decrease the price to $287, but give us $4,500. This is why you never give any indication of how desperate you are to sell or buy a house. If you give a little drop of that, at least to a negotiator like me, I'm going to take advantage of that. So he ended up getting his house under list price for what it appraised for. So he saved about, $5,000 on the price. And he saved on top of that another $5,000 in the closing costs. So if you think about it, this is the formula. Look out for ugly ducklings, these houses that maybe are not marketed properly or maybe don't show well for a particular reason, in this case, the backyard being all concrete. Figure out the situation, call the agent, figure out if there's any offers on the table. Now, obviously, you can't call the agent, maybe have your agent call the agent. Figure out if there's any offers on the table, figure out what's the motivation of the seller, and if there's no offers on the table, then secure the deal. Start off paying list price, paying a little bit under list price, whatever you got to do. Ask for the entire closing cost amount. If it doesn't appraise, well, now you have about $5,000 to $7,000 to work with, and maybe you get them in a position like we did where they have to sell, and now they're going to either cough up a little extra closing costs while decreasing the price, or maybe it just appraises and you're 100% fine. So other than that, I haven't had any luck getting closing costs paid for nice houses, ones that are really in great shape, because there's just so much leverage, leverage the seller has over the buyer that we really don't have much of an option. However, there was a situation where we got it with no closing costs, but during the inspections, we ended up finding out the roof was in really bad shape or something along those lines, and we ended up getting, I think, about $4,000 to $5,000 worth of a concession amount towards the roof. Now, the buyer might not replace the roof right away; they might wait a few months to do that. But the point is now we got this house with some kind of concession amount, where originally it was a multiple offer situation. There's no way in heck we would have tried to get closing costs, but now we ended up doing it due to negotiation during the repair on the Binzer. So yeah, it's totally possible for you to get closing costs in this market. It's just going to be a little more harder, and you're probably not going to get the house of your dreams. In our next video, we're going to talk about how to secure these situations that are multiple offers, and how to not contribute too much into the overinflation of the market. So if it's not popping up over my head right now, it's not ready yet. So go ahead and subscribe and get ready. Thank you guys.